Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of the Egg Whisperer Show, and tonight's topic is how to support fertility through food, and I can't imagine a better set of experts than Dr. Thayer and Judy Simon. You guys, thanks for joining us from Seattle tonight.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you.
So you guys do some incredible work, so why don't you just take it away and tell me a little bit more about yourselves?
Well, Judy and I met back in about 10 years ago, and we started working together here at SRM in Seattle with a program we call Food for Fertility, where we're really emphasizing health and helping women make healthy choices regarding food as they're on their fertility journey. Judy can tell us a little more.
Right. And what we were finding is we kept meeting these amazing women, and they all had all that waiting time. You're waiting to lose weight. You're waiting to get your cycle. And we thought, what a great idea. We knew they would all get along. Let's start offering classes. So Angela agreed to be our medical director, and Seattle Reproductive Medicine so generously supplies a wonderful space, mini kitchen kind of thing. Yeah. And we've now had 13 classes of women who have spent Saturday mornings here learning how to cook, eat, meal plan, have fun, stress management, little yoga, and then we take a walk. Okay. So instead of telling women, go lose weight, be healthy, we actually gave them the tools and a community.
Right, right. And so I live here in the San Francisco Bay Area. My patients are here. How can we benefit from the work that you're doing?
Well,
that's tough. You know, we would love it if other cities, other locations would, mimic things that we're doing. There are other programs in other locations, but there are certainly other support groups women can go to. I think so much of fertility, women feel alone and isolated. And the same thing when you have women who potentially have struggled with weight, they can feel alone and isolated. And so having communities or trying to build your own community would be an excellent idea. For people who are remote, who maybe aren't in a major metropolitan area with services available, they might be able to hook into a community online. There are so many good online communities that can support health and wellness and fitness and healthy eating. And so you could almost probably motivate to tailor something yourself if you didn't have a local resource.
Right. And then Judy, do you do nutrition coaching with patients who are out of town?
I do. So I do virtual, seeing some of your patients, I do virtual nutrition counseling, which is great because I can do it in the evenings and convenient times. But the other thing I'm going to share with you is that Angela and I have been working on a cookbook. And this cookbook is going to be unique. It's really going to share stories from the women that we've worked with, and sort of they'll still tell us their favorite recipes or what they learned and how that helped them on their journey. So it's going to be a little bit of education, nutrition, and some delicious recipes. And we hope to have it out by the beginning of 2019. So
that's excellent. Well, we can't wait to hear more about it because we'd love to share that news with everyone as well, our audience too. So you have to let us know.
We will.
So, I know I'm just being silly and because I can be, but I swear one of the second most common questions to, can I have sex? When can I have sex? How much sex can I have? Or, is it timed right? Is what should I eat for my fertility? I just did an embryo transfer today, one of many, and before I leave the room, I can almost sense that someone's going to ask me, well, what should I eat today? So what do you guys recommend? So you just had your embryo transfer. Should you have the pineapple core? What should you do?
Well, eat pineapple if you enjoy it. That's really kind of a myth that's been around for decades. Back when I was trying to get pregnant, I remember hearing that one. But really what we say is take good care of yourself. Take care of this body. If you've just had an embryo transfer, there's a really good chance you're going to be pregnant, very soon. So we want you to treat yourself and to treat that future child in a loving, caring way. And it doesn't mean it has to be very rigid. And what we really promote is eating real food, okay? And eating more plant-based, eating real food. It doesn't have to be, hundreds of dollars of supplements. I wish sometimes people would put more energy into learning how to cook or putting together just some really basic things, which we'll share with you today.
So you bring up a lot of good things about, basically how to improve your fertility with foods. What are some simple recipes that you can share with us?
Well, a lot of times we start with the basics of a plant-based diet, especially something more Mediterranean, is a good plan, a good starting point. People are familiar with a Mediterranean-based diet, plant-based, all the colors of the rainbow when you're shopping, and then supplementing with healthy proteins and fats, healthy carbohydrates, trying to eliminate processed foods and extra added sugars is a basic starting point. And then from there, obviously, people can individualize based on their own needs.
Right. Is there a basic calorie count people should be looking for?
Well, that's a good question. And so a lot of the women who come to see both of us do struggle with their weight. Okay. And a lot of times they've gone to a clinic and they've been told, they shake their head and said, you need to be at this BMI. And these women often, walk away very discouraged. And the reason I like working with Angela Thayer in her clinic so much is they don't do that. They really try to partner with their patients to have them, what can you do now to have a healthy lifestyle?
Right.
So some people already come in and they're using Fat Secret or MyFitnessPal. Let's see what you're doing, but let's really look at the quality of the food too. Because I have other women that come in and like, well, I'm just going to eat 1,500 calories. And, there's a lot of nutrition missing from it. So we've got to put the emphasis more on being intuitive eaters, eating when you're hungry, stopping when you're full, but trying to add in more of those plant-based types of foods, eating seasonal, local. And we get a lot of your good California produce, plus our own when it finally comes into season.
Right. Yeah.
So Angela and I, we taught a cooking class together a few months ago. She told me she's going to keep her day job when she found out what
it's challenging for sure.
When you don't do it all the time.
Yeah.
But we really had a lot of fun. We did roasted vegetables, and you made that delicious Mediterranean chicken
with olives. Yeah.
And then we had sorghum pilaf. So we introduced them to an ancient grain that was really delicious, and kale salad, and made a fruit sorbet, and we had our folks working in groups, like in little kitchen setups, and everyone's like, oh my gosh, this food is delicious.
I almost want to open up a kitchen now next to my office and start doing what you guys are doing, because it just sounds great, and these are such great tools for people to learn, not only when they're trying to get pregnant, but also in pregnancy and beyond.
Absolutely. And Judy's done a great job with patients who've gone through the program. Most of them have actually been successful and have gotten pregnant, and the ones that have had children have kind of continued on with the supportive care and the supportive group now with kids. And so it's super exciting to see that continue through the fertility journey, through pregnancy, and then on to parenthood.
We're helping them with their second babies.
I love it. So for people who are joining us right now in the middle of the show, can you also just do a plug again, Judy, for your website, Dr. Thayer for your clinic as well?
So I'm Judy Simon, and I own Mind Body Nutrition, PLLC. So you can check out that website. I do virtual nutrition counseling for folks. And then twice a year with Dr. Thayer, we offer the Food for Fertility class in Seattle. And it's open to any woman in the Seattle area, regardless of what clinic they're at.
Great.
Yeah, and I'm Angela Thayer. I'm at SRM, or Seattle Reproductive Medicine, in Seattle, Washington, and people can look it up. But generally, I see patients mainly here, although we certainly do some out-of-town phone consults and Skyping and other things as well.
Great. So we talked a lot about women, and I talked to the male partners about, basically getting their sperm in the best shape ever. I say things like, don't get your sperm stoned, don't get them drunk, you don't want them dizzy and falling over on themselves as they're trying to make their way up into the uterus. What kind of recommendations do you guys make for the male partners?
Agreeing with a lot of those things, for sure. We have legalized marijuana here, and so many people do enjoy recreational marijuana or alcohol, but it's not good for sperm. So we certainly tell people to, eliminate the marijuana use. The alcohol, only minimal or moderation is recommended. And then we do want them to also have a very well-balanced diet, plant-based, healthy, whole foods. And in addition, occasionally we will also tell them to make sure they have special additional vitamins or supplements to add to the food. So you can comment on that.
Right. And a lot of times, like I might have mentioned before, the men think, oh, if my sperm analysis is checked off, I'm good. I'm off to the bar, I'm off to McDonald's, I can have whatever I want. And two things. A, they should be supporting their partner, right? So they need to be eating healthfully.
They should be taking the cooking class too. I call them the ultimate cabana boys.
We invite them to the cooking class. We invite them on walks. But those women for the class, they like their space. But we do invite them. But really, so there's been some great work from Harvard. My colleague, Dr. Jorge Chavarro, I'm going to throw out a plug for him. But he's really done a great job of, it's kind of easier to measure diet and sperm, right? Because men just keep making them. So they can actually get a nice idea of what are men eating, what supplements are they taking, and what is the quality of their sperm. And they found out in the last few years the men who have a higher amount of omega-3 fatty acids. So Mediterranean diet, let's eat the fish, the salmon. We've got great fish out in the Northwest, and you have it in California. And also seeds and nuts that provide omega-3s, healthier sperm. We also find that zinc, which comes from not only meat, but it comes from plant-based foods and whole grains. Also, vitamin D is very important, and we really find that the men who are more replete in vitamin D, they have better quality sperm. It's a big issue here. So in Seattle, pretty much everybody needs vitamin D in the winter, and we have a lot of South Asian patients who are very dark pigmented. So before the male has even had his checked, I'm like, start taking it along with your wife, share the bottle. I've had some men that say, can I take the prenatal supplements with them? The only reason I tell them not to is there's a lot of iron in prenatal supplements, and men don't need as much iron. But there's a lot of nice kind of men one-a-day type of supplements that will give them some of the antioxidants, give them a little bit of an insurance policy, but really that same Mediterranean type of diet will help any metabolic syndrome issues they have. And those are very common. We have a lot of sedentary folks in Seattle, that are working behind computer desks for 12 hours a day.
Men should take a prenatal just like women do, right?
They should.
Exactly. So when it comes to all the different fertility diagnoses out there, I'm sure that there are fertility foods that you guys recommend.
Yeah, I mean, if somebody comes in, I tend to see many patients who have polycystic ovary syndrome. And so, for instance, a lot of them have tried many different diets, and they certainly think they should, lower their carbs. And so we talk about what does that mean for them as far as, lowering the less healthy carbs and increasing the fruits and vegetables and whole grains. So, filling in diet with good foods is a way to actually just shift your diet a little bit and make it better. We tend to not support very extreme dieting. We don't want that. So I tell people that a small shift can make a big difference, and to keep at it over time, and the effects multiply and benefit the person as they go on, as does more movement in their day-to-day existence, getting up out of the seat periodically. But that's a specific example. There are other specific examples where people need to be encouraged to eat different calories to increase their energy needs, right? So if we have a hypothalamic amenorrhea patient, that person has a very different need than a polycystic ovary, a woman with PCOS.
Right. And what about, let's say, a woman who has endometriosis? One of the questions some patients ask me, for example, I even got the question today, is tofu bad because it has estrogen in it, or soybeans? Should I avoid edamame? What do you recommend?
Well, I would say the data that we have on endometriosis really supports an anti-inflammatory diet. So when you say the Mediterranean diet, and for some women I have, they're going to go right from surgery for endometriosis right to their cycle, and they feel like they have this small window before the endometriosis starts to come back or something. So they're like, okay, I'll eat anything you tell me to eat. So we really try to make it as healthful as possible, and we've seen some good benefits with that. A little bit harder to measure, except for successive pregnancy, right? Whereas we don't have quite the biomarkers we have with PCOS and pre-diabetes. And then you asked about soy, and really, if you look at the legitimate good research, eating natural forms of soy, like edamame, tofu, tempeh, is actually in some studies shown to have higher pregnancy rates.
Interesting.
So if I have a patient and they have an issue with hypothyroidism, Hashimoto's or something, I'll say don't eat excessive soy. But if you want to have some meatless meals with tofu and all, that's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
And if people are scared of soy, it's actually a really healthy food.
Yeah. And what about sushi, for example, when you're trying to get pregnant?
What do you tell people? I know what I say.
I guess my thought is, I'm trying to have people avoid illness related to what could be in the food source. So if, raw seafood or unpasteurized cheese, bagged lettuce, it's everywhere. So I feel like people just have to use caution and make sure they're eating from good sources. I always tell people to rewash produce when they get it home, but I don't have a hard and fast rule that says when you're trying to avoid it, but once you're pregnant, I definitely would say to avoid raw seafood.
Right. And then Judy, what do you tell people?
I agree. I say to try to be careful. I mean, there's
Yeah.
some people that would eat sushi every day in
Right.
this town. And if they're really eating a lot, I'm like, you're putting yourself at higher exposure.
Yeah.
Right.
And especially when you're actively trying to get pregnant. But again, I'm kind of happy they eat fish, but I go, you can get some sushi with cooked salmon too,
Yeah.
And try to modify that a little bit and they can still have that sushi experience.
Right. Right.
Which is fun.
And I imagine that you get this question all the time too. Can I have a cup of coffee? And how does that impact fertility or miscarriage risk or affect pregnancy? What do you guys recommend?
Go ahead, what do you say?
Generally, our practice recommends moderation. Certainly, people can abstain altogether, but we generally say try to limit your coffee or caffeine consumption to like the equivalent of 1 cup a day. Don't drink coffee throughout the day. And then if you're, drinking decaf, that, make sure you're drinking a good decaf. The way coffee is decaffeinated has some issues as well. So, that's generally what we say, 1 cup of coffee or tea. Hopefully that's okay. And I find most patients, when they're talking at that level, they actually end up eliminating it altogether.
I see.
Yeah, I don't have too much trouble. Most people, and I'm the same thing, more moderation. I tell them there's a few studies that have shown a longer length of time to conception. And if they just kind of hear that, they go, okay, I'll just cut it back.
Yeah.
Everybody wants the things to be on their side,
Right.
instead of, being nervous about it.
Right. So how about for patients who are preparing for egg retrieval and they might be experiencing OHSS or having some of those symptoms? I tell patients you might go from feeling 0 months pregnant to 8 months pregnant in 12 days, and then all of a sudden you have to shift and adjust how you eat. Are there any diet recommendations you make for patients who are in that situation that can still be helpful? Because downing Gatorade for 12 days, that can't be that good for you with all the sugar.
Yeah, generally, we tend to recommend if there is a little bit of mild OHSS that we're worried about, we do recommend electrolyte containing beverages, but we try to actually tell people to avoid the sports drinks that have sugar added because of that, and then to not overhydrate so they don't get too much fluid on board. But then to try to continue to eat healthy as that is resolving. And generally, people with more moderate hyperstimulation are certainly probably not going to be having an embryo transfer. So most people let that resolve before transferring an embryo anyway. And it's a rather short-term issue, and most patients are able to ride it out, I think.
Yeah, I like to tell patients to have protein shakes, yummy soups, things that they can tolerate in small amounts. They don't need to go to the potato chips that are high in salt.
Right.
Or the cheeseburgers if they're not used to having them, or they don't have to force themselves to have French fries because it's a salty food because of something they read online. Judy, do you have any tips, any pro tips for patients who are going through the process with OHSS?
Just for drinks, they have those little Noon NUUN tablets, like an electrolyte drink.
Okay.
It doesn't have all the sugar that you use when you're cycling and things. And that's kind of a nice light way to get the electrolytes and not have to fluid overload. But a lot of times patients will ask me I'm on progesterone, I feel really nauseous or things like that. And I'll try to give them tips to try to still eat healthily, a little bit smaller, or they'll complain to me, I've done so well, I know I'm gaining weight with these fertility drugs. What are some of the common sense types of things? And kind of letting them know they're not the only one, this is normal, and this shall pass really helps a lot. Or they feel really bad, I'm not eating great right now, I just found out I'm pregnant. am I ruining everything for my baby? I'm like, no, you've set such a good foundation. It's okay. Ride it out, the symptoms, and things will get better, and we'll help you if it's not. But communicate with your team.
Right.
And I know nurses are always available to answer those questions, which is great.
Absolutely.
And if a patient's severely dehydrated, for example, she should definitely seek care.
Yes.
No doubt about that.
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit. You brought it up, pregnancy, prenatal vitamins, supplements. What do you recommend?
So generally, I recommend a prenatal vitamin, and the prenatal, Judy will chat about what should be in a prenatal, but I think you need a basic prenatal. Here in Seattle, our patients also need supplemental vitamin D, and same for the men. They need a multivitamin and extra vitamin D, and that's where we start for supplements. Other things are a little more tailored to the individual circumstance.
And do you have a goal vitamin D level that you're looking for in your patients for optimal health?
So that's, so controversial. There have been some great published studies that have shown that trying to get your level above 30, but some have even suggested higher, even above 40 or 45 could be beneficial. So it's really hard for people in this area of the country to get that level without supplementation. But yeah, it has been shown to help pregnancy and implantation. So we are aiming for that. A lot of insurance companies don't reimburse testing, so that becomes problematic when you want to see what their level is, and then we know that their insurance may not pay for it. Now we're talking, do you want to test or not, knowing you might end up having to pay this test yourself. So generally, yes, we try to tailor the supplement to the level if we have a level to work toward.
Got it. And are there other ways of getting vitamin D without going out in the sun and taking a supplement?
You mean without flying to Hawaii? That's what a lot of our patients have to do.
Right.
It's really hard. The only food sources of vitamin D, you will get some in your dairy products, in your milk and in your yogurt, and in your cheese, a little bit in your mushrooms and a little bit in fish. It's really hard to get over 1,000 IU from diet. So we really encourage you, like today, to go out and get some sun in Seattle, one of those weird spring days, but really supplementation. And it's safe. And the OBs are on board, once they're pregnant. They don't freak out if they see our patients have 4,000 IU a day.
Right.
In fact, in some practices, if they're really low, they may put you on 50,000 a week for 8 weeks. There's a few different ways to replenish. The other thing we look at with the prenatals, and they're getting better, the over-the-counter ones, we want to make sure not only do they have folate, but also in iron, that they have iodine.
Got it.
At least 150 micrograms of iodine. That helps to support a healthy thyroid. And we really want that in our fertility patients because we can't always count on what's in the soil like we used to. And we can't count on what's in our salt because people buy these really fancy salts that don't always have iodine. You have to look for the lady with the blue umbrella,
Right.
She has iodized salt for like 89 cents.
Yeah.
But a lot of the fancy salt, we're not sure if it has iodine. It also prevents mental retardation in infants. So that's a World Health Organization initiative to make sure women have adequate iodine going to pregnancy. And since we're checking thyroid, we find that that's really, really helpful. And the new kid on the block is choline.
Okay.
COLINE, which is like a B vitamin-like, and about 90% of women are deficient in it.
Interesting.
And where do we get it? We get it from meat, but we get it from eggs, whole eggs. So yesterday I had a patient, and she showed me her food diary, and she gets the breakfast sandwich with just egg whites. I go, you need more choline. Could you eat the whole egg? And she's like, yes. So choline works together with folic acid to help with neural tube formation, neural development in the baby, but it also helps our brains. Acetylcholine, we want to be smart and sharp and everything. So you can get it from vegetarian sources. Now, Dr. Thayer sends me several vegan patients a year, and I really go over their diet well. And if I feel like they can't get enough choline, a few of the supplement companies, am I allowed to say a company name?
Absolutely.
Show, it's cool. All right.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited that Theralogics, who they make a lot of really good quality nutrition supplements for reproductive health, they are putting it in their prenatals, like their prenatal complete. So when we talk about tailoring them, when we figure out how much vitamin D they need, do they need choline and all, they have like 3 or 4 different formulations. We can pick here's one you may want to take. We don't sell them. We just, recommend good
Right. We
quality.
want to make things as convenient for people as possible. These are trusted
Yeah,
companies. Yeah, I have no problem with us talking about it so people know where to get them.
really a good quality product, and
Yeah.
they have some male products too.
Hmm.
Yeah, so those are the prenatal we like to have. And then when we're working with our women with diminished ovarian reserve or that are older women for IVF, you want to talk about CoQ10 and your recommendations?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of women will, have heard or be
Hmm.
taking ubiquinol or CoQ10 or DHEA
Hmm.
based on some earlier studies.
Mhm.
And we generally do tell people about those supplements and that they certainly are welcome to be on them. They are more expensive at
Mhm.
times, especially the CoQ10.
Right.
The studies that support use of CoQ10 were based on mice that were on it for the equivalent of 10 human years. So it's
It's a
really
long
not
time.
possible to get that kind of exposure for
Mhm.
somebody who's trying to do IVF or get pregnant. But still, we think it certainly isn't going to hurt and it might be potentially slightly beneficial.
Hmm.
So some people do take those
Do you have any
supplements.
feelings about acai berry?
I don't. Do you, Jerry?
I know that one of the centers was studying it. It's
Hmm.
high in antioxidants.
Yeah.
So it's kind of popular to make those acai bowls,
Right.
with fruit and everything. I think we did it in class one time. We put some in a smoothie or
Uh-huh.
something like
In a
that.
smoothie.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
would
for
say
sure.
they kind of go along with the polyphenols and the antioxidants. I'd say stay tuned. Again, I love anything that's plant-based.
Right.
I know there was another CoQ study, 10 study lately with PCOS showing some possible benefit.
Hmm.
We've both seen some really good success with the inositol, with the myo and inositol
Hmm.
for women with PCOS, with helping with insulin sensitivity.
Definitely.
There's a lot of the women that we see. It's
Right.
really, it's a common
Yeah, we
woman
have
walking the
many.
door is
Yeah,
PCOS.
many patients who we
Mhm.
have take, and they prefer it. So the foundation of, good diet,
Right.
healthy foods, exercise, and then the
Mhm.
inositols.
Hmm.
And then after that, maybe metformin. So it really depends on the individual and what their metabolic state is,
Right.
how many layers we need to put on and talk about.
Right.
Yeah, but that can definitely help.
So I think that, our patients here in the San Francisco Bay Area are probably very similar to your patients in Seattle as far as how fitness focused they are. And a lot of patients here are vegan or vegetarian. How do you guide those patients who are also trying to get pregnant and are worried about getting enough protein, getting enough iron?
Well, I think that's right. So some people are very active and we have to worry about their energy composition. Are they getting enough
Mhm.
calories to support healthy egg and sperm production and a healthy pregnancy? And then also, do we need to tell them to modify or bring back or rein in a bit on their exercise to take it to a more moderate level?
Hmm.
So we definitely tell people, if they want to train for a marathon or a triathlon, that's wonderful, but we might recommend they delay their fertility treatment until after the event, which is usually just in a few months.
Right.
And certainly seeing Judy to get some great advice on let's look at what you're eating, right,
Mhm.
and see if you're getting
Available
enough
energy.
calories,
Mhm.
available energy
Mhm.
to meet the needs to go forward.
Right. And we get resistance on that sometimes because they're telling me, I have a very clean diet.
Right.
There can't be anything wrong. And we really talk about that reproductive access is in the basement. It gets energy last. And so we really need to feed it. And they just want to know how many pounds do I have to gain, and
Right.
a little negotiation. But we see great success from food.
Right.
Yep.
And they do a lot better going through an IVF cycle if they're well fed and nourished than if they're in a state of starvation. They do not do well.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, having enough energy, I mean, something small, 5 pounds, and then cutting back the number of miles you're running or
Mhm.
hours at the
Mhm.
gym. But generally, I mean, I encourage patients to continue to
Mhm.
exercise
Mhm.
and feel good. It
Mhm.
lowers stress,
Me too.
metabolism, and so we like people to be active and be outdoors, and so but just not the high end extreme, but
Right.
certainly moderate levels. And then in patients with PCOS, those women, actually there's good data published that says they can do more. They
Mhm.
can do some of the high intensity
Mhm.
or the training and be even more active and have improved fertility rates.
Right. So I have a few more questions, and one of them, again, I'm sure you hear this all the time, is should I avoid white sugar, bread? You know, is that bad for my fertility? Should I avoid dairy completely? I probably get a question like that maybe every day.
Oh, those are really good questions. So I think when it comes to dairy, the nurses study, the fertility diet with Jorge Chavarro and Dr. Willett actually showed that having one full fat dairy product a day was actually helpful for ovulation. And I tell our patients to remember your bodies do need fat. So the avocado, the seeds, and nuts. You need fat to produce hormones, and cholesterol is not all an evil thing. Now, women with PCOS, if they have acne, sometimes it's pretty legitimate if they remove dairy from their diet. It may not improve their fertility, but it will improve their skin from the IGF-1 factor. So sometimes I'll say, well, we can all live healthfully without dairy. We can get calcium from plant sources. There are alternative milks. It's not the deal breaker in fertility. But I have never seen, I don't know if you have any research that says that dairy is going to, do something horrible to your fertility. I mean, I haven't seen anything.
Right. No, I think it's definitely up to the individual whether they not. But I do tell people to, if somebody's doing non-fat or low-fat, to consider the whole milk or the whole fat dairy because I think there is good data on that.
Yeah. So it's having the fat, and then, I'm sorry, what was the other one? It was dairy and there's another
white sugar.
Oh, white sugar. Okay. Well, okay. What would you say about white sugar? I'll let you go first.
Well, I mean, I think limited, obviously. So special occasion, I think it's so ubiquitous now. It's really hard to not have it around. It's hidden in a lot of foods. And so I think being aware of it and then really, I think if you limit it and then try to potentially eliminate it, you can change your palate to change your taste and your craving for it. But I think it's a big problem because it can create an ongoing desire to have that, and it doesn't have much as far as nutritional benefit.
Right. And what we try to do with our ladies in class a lot is I always say, let's start with kind of something more neutral. Let's use our fruits and all to sweeten things. We do a lot of roasting and caramelizing vegetables because it has a delicious natural sweet flavor, but we actually take that plain yogurt and we add fruit and cinnamon to it. And then when we add something like maybe a little honey or maple syrup, I always tell the patient, you be in charge of how sweet it needs to be. Don't buy the oatmeal that has all the sugar in it. What you can do with fruit. We do a lot of natural things. We make muffins with oats and ripe bananas and stuff. We don't add any sugar at all to it. But I don't want you to think we take all the joy out of life.
No, not at all. But, and what about the sodas that are diet? I mean, are those bad for fertility, dangerous for women to be drinking? Should they be limiting those?
So I'm personally not a fan of diet sodas where there have been artificial sweeteners added. I think there's now data coming out that's showing that that is not good and can actually lead to weight gain. So I don't know of any particular studies saying they are damaging for fertility. Do you know?
I don't either, but I think too, what Angela, I always say, is there anything in them that would be good for your fertility? You know what I mean? So if you like the bubble, maybe trying the LaCroix drink, or we had fun with our class. We bought those nice pitchers and we put fruit in the middle. So we put lemon and lime or different fruit flavored waters and things like that, having Perrier, having some of the bubble waters, things like that. I think in Seattle, we have a tax now on soda. So we have a pretty big shift. You can tell the public health movement is to decrease soda. But we work with our patients. We don't shame them or judge. I mean, some people come in and they're so nervous to tell me what to eat, like, okay. Here it is. And I'm like, hey, no problem. Let's see what you're eating. And usually once you start talking to them, they'll say, well, I guess I could cut back on soda. That would probably be a good idea, right? Yeah, how can we do that? So we try to support them to move towards that more healthful diet. No shame. We don't know everything. But I don't think there's anything in diet soda that's going to help start a family that I'm aware of, right? So.
The information you're giving us tonight is just awesome. So thank you for all of this. And there's one more thing that I'm sure you hear also, and that's about gluten and wheat and bread? Should fertility patients just avoid bread completely? How do you counsel your patients on this question that I'm sure you get all the time also?
So, some people are very concerned about the carbs and the bread and gluten. And, some people have been tested for celiac disease, and that's a legitimate problem that a small percentage of people will have, and certainly they need to avoid gluten. But a lot of people generally probably don't need to completely avoid gluten. It depends. Some people might get stomach upset and feel better eliminating gluten from their diet. But if they are going to eat, whole grain bread, I recommend whole grain rather than the enriched flour breads. But I tell people, I don't have a rule that says avoid gluten. It's going to help your fertility. I don't think that's true. But so again, we individualize it and just say as part of a well-balanced diet, it could be a good part of that.
Right. And I think what's really important is a lot of people on these fad diets, and they're just giving up beans and grains and breads, and they're losing a lot of good nutrients. We want our patients to have at least 25 grams of fiber a day. That's those prebiotics. It's going to feed our good probiotic, our good bacteria in our gut. And that helps improve immune system. Yeah. And it helps with weight too. We're seeing a lot of connection with chronic disease. And if our women have prediabetes and they have PCOS, we want to have the best shot they have. And when I do have people sort of, spar with me a little bit on the grains and all, I'll tell them we have epidemiological data that shows that people who eat more whole grains, legitimate whole grains, live longer. So win in the end, those of us who do like the whole grain. And if someone chooses to be gluten-free, there's so many wonderful things they can eat. They can eat quinoa. That's what we sorghum.
Right.
So we actually have our women try all these different grains. Like you don't have to live on rice, pasta, and bread.
Right.
There's so many other delicious grains. And they go home, Aimee, I'm not kidding, like 3 hours after this, they text us. Yeah. Look, I don't know when I made that. I made the quinoa mango black bean salad. I love it. I mean, there's me 6 years later. We have two private Facebook pages, and they post, oh, guess what I made? I made that really yummy thing. Or somebody shared with us this with whole wheat flour, you can make these bagels with yogurt and eggs, and I couldn't believe it until I made them. They're delicious and they have protein. So they're all doing it on Facebook.
So the people watching the show, can they join your private group? Is that a possibility, or is it just for people that are local?
That community. Yeah. But they could go on my Mind Body Nutrition page where I do post a lot of articles like that, and I'll post more recipes if I get more followers. How's that?
That's perfect. That's absolutely perfect. Well, you guys, thank you for everything. Thank you for talking to us tonight about how to support your fertility through food. What I want to do before we sign off is have each of you kind of just share a message that you want every fertility patient to know when it comes to fertility and food.
Oh, gee. Okay. Well, I would say, generally to eat well and live well as you are trying to get pregnant. And that's the basic message. It's common sense, and I don't think there is any particular magic formula. So eat well, live well, get pregnant.
Thank you.
Yes, and I always tell my patients, same thing as Angela, but I always tell them if they have to know 2 foods, it's greens and beans. And so we have so much fun. We have kale day, don't be afraid of green leafy vegetables. They can be all your meals and things, but really try new things. Be open to trying new types of whole foods. Have fun with it and get your partner involved. Do it as if you're single and you're on this journey, get your friends involved, get your family involved. And make the food fun. Go to farmers market, make it a lot of fun, make it delicious. Not healthy. We talk about food being delicious.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Like, don't tell your kids it's healthy, right?
Right. Delicious.
Delicious.
Well, this has been super informative. Thank you for all the work that you're both doing. We can't wait to read your book, so please touch base again, and then hopefully we can even have you on the show one more time to talk about the book. How's that?
Next year,
yes.
Awesome. Okay, well, thank you guys. Have a great night and enjoy the Seattle night.
All right.
See you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.